understood. How are you all this evening of your time to create time to exist? Allow me to begin in the following manner, and this also will be the title of tonight's interaction. Are you ready? Happy anniversary. For in this way, you will find that this very night of your timing, of your counting, precisely 3 of your years ago, was our first communication with you through this travel. In this way, therefore recognize that this represents the idea of a new phase, a new facet, a new doorway, a new direction, acceleration of momentum, blending of ideas and energy. And with regard to this idea, with respect to this particular point of view, allow us to share a few ideas with you. There will be the time for the sharing, but in this way allow us to share with you first that there will now be, because of the representative timing, more acceleration in what you call the days to come. Relatively quickly, you will now find that as you approach your year of counting, 1987, in this way, there will be more and more opportunity to recognize the solidification of your desires, the solidification of your dreams into physical materiality. And you are now going to begin to see that energy of accelerated knowingness that is represented by your collective willingness to expand and explore more of yourself now come to fruition in your physical world. More and more events, more and more opportunities, more and more blatant representations of the manifestation of change and opportunity that can point in the direction of unity and peace will now begin to appear in your society as you accelerate towards the doorway of the springtime of your coming new year, which represents a gate, an energy gate, through which you will be stepping. This energy gate, as we have said, will involve more conscious recognition, more direct interaction from many facets of your society, more impact from many facets of your society upon the whole civilization in which you exist, with regard to what type of a world you actually can create. There will be more expression of willingness to share boldly, blatantly, overtly from many individuals and many groups within your civilization about the things that you do desire to experience in your world. No longer, within the next year of your time, will you find it necessary to keep back, to keep hidden the things that represent your desire, your energy, your acceleration, your knowingness, your willingness, your convictions. The idea of the creation of a physiological harmony, peace, and ecstasy upon your planet are now being anchored in solid foundations of physiological experience. You will see more and more opportunity to recognize this in your society in the coming months of your time, and therefore will create and attract to yourself more and more opportunities to express that idea yourself as your lives become more blatant representations of the synchronicity of all that is. Now, at this time, therefore, allow us to, as you say, recapitulate some ideas that we have been sharing with you for the past 3 years of your time, not so much that we will repeat it, but that we will now explain the foundation that has been laid down through the sharing of all the ideas we have interacted with you as. In this way, therefore, do recognize that we have always and still do know that you are in a world that involves processes. And at no time in our discussion, our sharing with you, was there ever intended to be the idea that your processes are not valid or that you should attempt to get rid of them. They are reflective of your world, and they are the very essence of the courses of the lives you have chosen to live. But what we have been laying down with you as a foundation is that the idea of knowing that the processes are your creations, your illusions, so to speak, will create the ability to create your processes in fluid, flowing, effortless, struggle-less manner that will allow it to be perceived in your life as if you are not going through a process, but simply enjoying another ecstatic opportunity to experience more and more life, more and more joy, more and more happiness. We simply sought to disassociate your old definition of processes, so that the processes you would continue to create as long as you are physically real would not seem like the struggle your processes of old have been. In this way, from time to time, we have shared certain ideas of technique that may be representative of an overall collective mass consciousness ability to tap into different levels of itself. At the same time, we have discussed that, of course, you are quite capable of creating your own techniques by tapping into this collective consciousness yourself. And that your imagination is the doorway and the key through which you have access to all that you need, any tool, any ritual, any method, any process that you require in life. From time to time, we have assisted, we have nudged, we have suggested different methodologies that may be representative of what will generally function or work for the majority of you. At the same time, reminding you that any general process that we share with you, any general technique that we suggest, is still always going to be slightly altered to fit the vibration, the signature vibration of the unique being that you are. So it is still your unique process, your unique creation, and you are still funneling or channeling our suggestions through the dimension of your imagination in order to allow it to make sense in the reality you have created yourself. Are you all following along so far? Thus, in this way, we will, after your break, tonight of your time, share with you a technique which in this way may allow you to recognize the true expansiveness that has grown within each and every one of you through not only the interactions you have had with us, but through the interactions you have had with yourselves during the past several of your years, and in quite an accelerated state during the past several of your months. Regardless of whether you have interacted with us before is not important. You have interacted with exactly the information you have needed to interact with, and if you simply find yourself exploring any of the ideas we are sharing with you this evening of your time at all, then simply take it for granted you are exactly, precisely the right place and the right time to understand everything you need to understand, and you will understand it on whatever level of your consciousness is required for you to understand it. Do not worry that some things may seem foreign in the technique. You will understand it, and you will apply it in whatever way is necessary for you to do so within your own degree of willingness, your own degree of readiness, and your own degree of comfort in applying these ideas. You follow? Therefore, no one need feel to be a stranger to the idea of the exploration of the ecstasy within themselves. It is not that you have missed out, that you are late, that you need to catch up to any particular techniques that have been shared or anything like that. Simply finding yourself interacting with the individuals you are interacting with at this time is indication that you are exactly at the right place and the right time, or you would not be where you are. You will understand it in the way you need to understand it. At this time, allow us also, because you are now going to find that as you expand your sensory awareness, your sensory apparatus, there will be more of an understanding of some of the ideas you call psychic functioning and telepathy in your civilization. We have shared some of these ideas with you of recent, and we will share more this idea again now. In a sense, allow us therefore to lay down a foundation and an analogy and an example of some of the ways your society has represented the idea of psychic function, of telepathy. For now we find that this foundation is necessary in your consciousness so that you can recognize these things when and where you see them in your society, so that you will have a perspective and be able to recognize that there is no need for negative confusion about these ideas. It is all quite simply arranged within a matrix of understanding. It all quite fits in. Recognize that as what you call your scientific approach has been held to be responsible, has been given the job of explaining your reality to you. Thus, having accepted that position, many individuals who are pursuing the idea of scientific technique have therefore sought to also explain the idea of psychic phenomena of telepathy in this way. Even though many of them do not believe that such a thing is possible, they are still accepting the job application of explaining the phenomena of something they do not believe in. Now, recognize in this way, it is simply that a mythology, so to speak, has been created about this idea, and you will find it that, from our point of view, it is quite paradoxical that an individual who purports to think of themselves as scientific would, A, comment on something they do not believe in to begin with, in that way, thus forming a conclusion that, quote-unquote, in their point of view, should set the standards for the rest of the society about what that idea is all about to begin with. And B, that they should find that because they do not believe it, that they are capable of designing an explanation of it to begin with. In this way, simply recognize their point of view is valid for their own understanding and their own approach of themselves. But at this time, allow us to give an analogy for why many individuals that think that certain ideas or all ideas should fit into prearranged and preconceived structures simply do not fit. And why they think that if those ideas do not fit, then it represents the idea that those ideas do not exist. May I remind you that the usual form in general that this takes, by example, is the following. Let us say there is an individual who is relatively in touch with the fact that they are, so to speak, psychically sensitive, telepathically sensitive, as each and every individual actually is. But there is varying degrees of awareness of this ability, varying degrees of willingness to share this ability, to express this ability. To recognize, of course, as we have shared with you many times, the idea of telepathy and psychic functioning is not so much a mental activation. It is perhaps a mental expression, so to speak, or it is contained within the idea you call mentality. But it is an emotional activation. It is activated by desire, by emotion. Therefore, in this way, many times, first of all, recognize that many of the scenarios that are set up to explore and examine psychic functioning and telepathy are the most sterile of environments, in which there is no spontaneous emotionality involved. It is being measured as if it were something to pick apart and prod in a very seemingly objectified way. And by definition, it is not an objective phenomenon. Thus, that is why primarily it has eluded many of the so-called attempts at laboratoryizing the idea. Now, you will find again that many of these individuals that think they know what the definition of psychic functioning is, even though they may not believe it exists, they have taken upon themselves to believe that a definition implies that if I ask you, ex-psychic person, to tell me something that you have no basic access to, and you tell me this, then I will believe that such a thing exists. If you do not, I will not believe that such a thing exists. I will set the standards, and by those standards that I set, even though I do not believe that such a thing exists, I will determine whether or not such a thing exists, by the standards that I set based upon my understanding of this idea, regardless of what it may actually be. Thus, in this way, it usually takes the form of scientists requesting of psychic, oh, well, let us see. Tell me what I have for breakfast. Tell me who is going to win tomorrow's game. Tell me what I have hidden in my upper shelf closet on the third floor in the left-hand corner of my house. If you can do that, I will believe that such things are possible. Tell me what I am thinking. Tell me what my favorite color is. all of these ideas are usually in your society used as parameters to determine even the basic reality of psychic functioning or telepathy. Now, let us turn this analogy around, and perhaps it will be clearer as to why this is, so to speak, let us say, to use your terminology, a naive approach. May I have a volunteer to represent the planet Earth?
Yes.
All right, you.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, we will suppose that I am the type of extraterrestrial consciousness that only knows about your civilization through the most remote hearsay and rumor. My impression of your civilization is rather sketchy. I have heard certain things, but I have not had the time to put two and two together and really explore the idea in total. So, I come to you at this time with this understanding. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, fine. Say, you know, I have heard that there is this device. Perhaps you can tell me the truth of this matter. If such a device exists upon your planet, I have heard you have a technological device that enables you, gives you the technical capability of speaking to anyone on your planet within moments. Do you have such a device?
Yes, we do.
Oh, what do you call it?
We call it the telephone,
Oh,
wireless.
all right.
A number of ways to do it.
Oh, thank you. This is very exciting to discover that this is, in fact, a reality.
It is exciting.
Now, therefore, allow me to request a demonstration. Oh, may I?
Certainly.
Oh, well, thank you. I will be most excited to set up the parameters of this demonstration, which, when fulfilled, will excite me no end to see the marvelous functioning of this device. Therefore, since you say this device exists, I will now set up a demonstration so that you may have the pleasure of demonstrating this device to me. Let's see now. We also have a rumor of some individuals upon your planet. We have heard some names leaking through. So I will pick one of these names at random and allow you to demonstrate your device by communicating with this individual. Let us see. The name Ayatollah Khomeini stands out. Now, therefore, would you please, within the next 30 of your seconds, place a phone call to this individual and have a communication with them so that I may observe?
Well, can you do it? Can you take a little longer than 30 seconds?
But you said the device is capable of talking to anyone on your planet within that time frame. Are you now implying that there is no such capability?
Well, it may be possible, no.
Maybe. You don't know. You said you had such a device. Why are you hedging?
It depends on the person being available at the other end.
Also, what you are telling me is that my particular request, in a sense, is naive because I am unaware of all of the variables that go into allowing the process to actually be fulfilled. Is that what you are saying?
Well, no, it's not naive at all.
Oh, yes, it is. For I do not have an awareness of what those variables are. So, my assumption that it is, in your terms, within your system of reality, simply a matter of picking up the device at your end and placing the call at the other end, is not presenting a cognizance of the fact that there is, upon the part of the individual at the other end, also a need to express the willingness to communicate.
Well, I mean, I can make a phone call,
Okay.
and it will ring on the other end, and somebody may pick it up, but it may not be the Ayatollah.
All right. But in this way, are you understanding the point we are making?
Yes, of course.
All right. Then the idea simply can be reversed to be understood that when an individual suggests of another that they function psychically or telepathically in the way they think represents psychic functioning or telepathy, it does not necessarily take into account all of the factors involved. Therefore, in this way, there are three basic factors that allow for the functioning of this idea in a clear and concise manner. Just as there are certain factors that allow for a clear connection and communication through your telephonic device. The first one is to recognize psychic functioning and telepathy will manifest along the line of least resistance. Now, what this means is, very simply, that if the information that is being requested is accessible without going to another level, then you generally won't go to another level to get it. So if an individual says to you, "What did I have for breakfast?" they already know. So why should the psychic, not that it is not possible for the psychic to do so, if that is another circumstance, but why should that ability open up when the answer already exists in the individual asking the question? It is easily accessible through that individual, and, let us say, the quickest response, the quickest manifestation of that answer would be simply for the psychic to reply, "Don't you know what you have for breakfast? You tell me." Therefore, you will also understand that another way to express the path of least resistance may be in the following manner. That, again, the information may be directly accessible on the level in which you exist, in the conscious state. So let us say an individual asks you, "All right, you tell me, what time did I get up this morning?" Now, you may find that nothing comes to you in your normal psychic manner, but as you are pondering this, you look around, and over there, for some reason, stands out a sign that has the number 7 on it. So you simply say, "Well, all right, it's a hunch. 7. But you recognize that the idea is even so much that you did not have to go to another level to get it, so to speak, but it was right there for you, and the synchronicity of the event played itself out. So it still took the path of least resistance. You follow me?
Yes.
Item 2 will be, there must be a need, very strong need, or a very strong desire, or a very strong trust for the information to be there. Without one, at least one of those factors, there is no need for the activation and no ability for the emotional activation of that information. If somebody says, "Well, what did I have for breakfast this morning?" Who cares? It may be very important to the person who had the breakfast. If it is important to the person to know that, they can know that. If they simply have a great need to know it, they can know it. If they have a great desire to know it, they can know it. If they have a great trust, they can know it. They can know it. Generally speaking, however, that type of a question does not usually evoke a great need, desire, or trust. Since, again, it is easily accessible information, and generally speaking, it is being used to create the idea of a test, which generally, as you say, turns people off, rather than excites them emotionally. You follow me? The idea in this way, therefore, will be the second phase of psychic functioning. The third will be the idea you call preconceived notions. These preconceived notions fall into the category of the test in this way, because an individual who is testing you for your ability to access information within them is, in a sense, actually holding that information from you. They are consciously putting a block around it and not willing to interact with you on an emotional level. They are hiding the information. So that, in creating a preconceived notion that you should be able to dig after it, root it out, tear them apart, and pull it from their midsection, implies that you have the capability of doing that. That is a preconceived notion about what the whole idea is all about, and thus does not allow for the actual mechanism to function. Another manifestation of what you call preconceived notion can be in the following example. Let us say you are utilizing the device on your planet you call playing cards, and one individual holds up in front of themselves the idea you call the ace of spades. They say to the psychic, "All right, guess what card I'm holding?" The psychic says, "I get an impression of 3 of hearts." "No," the tester says, You are wrong. You have failed. I do not believe in telepathy or psychic functioning. However, it is a preconceived notion that the idea has to be transmitted in the way the transmitter thinks it should to represent what you call an actual transmission. The idea for what appears to be the discrepancy can be for many reasons, one of which is as follows. Let us say the individual holding the ace of spades implies or puts into a certain meaning to the ace of spades. Perhaps that was something that carries great importance for the tester. In this way, what the psychic may first pick up on is the feeling the card gives the tester. Let us say it is a card that won a game for the tester at some point in their life. So, the psychic, in picking up the feeling, may make a relative preconceived notion of a familiar association. And what they may pick up on is the idea, this is a card that won a game for me at some point in my life and allowed me to be very excited. What that may translate into is the card that allowed the psychic to win a game at some time in their life and become very excited. Perhaps that card was the Three of Hearts. So the idea may be that the psychic was picking up on what the card means rather than what it physiologically is. And the tester may not be in touch with that consciously. You follow me? All of these ideas, many times, obfuscate the fact that psychic functioning and telepathy occurs constantly in your civilization. But many times you do not allow yourself to recognize that there are many invalidations on the part of your society that allow it to seem as if no such interchange exists. Therefore, from this point forward, you can be sensitive to the ideas as they are being expressed and recognize that feelings are what is usually exchanged as telepathy or psychic functioning. Not so much that it has to be literal representational symbols, though it can be. So the more sensitive you become to the understanding that the feeling is probably on the mark, the more confidence you will build within yourselves that will allow you more recognition of what another individual's symbols are that represent the feeling you get, and then you may be able to hone in more precisely on the symbols themselves. But first, you must allow the feeling to validate itself. You all follow along. Therefore, along with the exercise, the technique we will provide on the other side of your break, we will also, this evening of your time, have a message for you at the end of the session. At this time, Sherry.
Sean.
You.
I'd like to say that I really love the progress, and I've enjoyed this evening very much. Did I understand you say on a previous tape just a few weeks ago that the transformation will extend into about 27 years from now?
Approximately, in generalized terms, each and every individual within this overall bubble of time will accelerate at their own pace individually. But the general average cross-section of the combined rate at which you are all progressing will take up approximately the next 27 to 30 of your years.
That sounds like a reduction from the 30 to 50 that you were saying before.
Guys,
we're doing good.
As we have said, the idea as it still stands from our point of view is that every single day of your time now brings with it as many connections to different levels of your consciousness as it took 1 to 3 years to make 10 years ago. That is the rate at which you are accelerating.
Okay, there's a fellow on this planet named Preston who calls himself a mentalist, and he puts on some very fascinating demonstrations of psychic functioning. I, for one, believe that he's being honest, and I believe that he's doing, in fact, what he says he's doing and what he appears to be doing. Would you give me your perception and from your perspective of whether he's doing that?
Allow us to simply say that we perceive that that individual at times will be conscious of the fact that they are doing it that way, and at times will be conscious of the fact that they are employing the idea you call illusions, although they consciously recognize and state this to be so. But the idea of the creation of those illusions many times still relies on the same abilities they utilize in psychic functioning, whether they may be consciously aware of this or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Thanks.
I also was very excited by your introduction. I think it's wonderful. I assume that's one of the reasons is speeding up that some of us have been very spaced out lately.
Yes, the limbo state is in full force. The transition, the shifting of gears is taking place. That is why many of you now find that you are coasting along with your clutches out.
Our clutches out?
Okay, you are not engaged.
Oh, right, exactly. Now, over the weekend, I slept a lot. And Steve mentioned that he and his family slept a lot. A lot of people.
Connections onto other levels that you now find necessary to create the certain types of buffers that you need to re-engage smoothly.
That's what I assumed. I was wondering if it was that or if it was simply getting ready to be speeded up.
What is the difference?
Exactly. That was my next question. If there was a difference at all, if it's the same thing.
That was your next answer.
Oh, my next answer.
Right.
Right.
For you are in touch with what these ideas mean for you, and you do not need to put them in the form of a question.
Right.
You can, therefore, allow me to thank you for your sharing.
But it's been very exciting. It is very exciting.
Yes.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Definitely.
Oh, present. Relax.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
For sure.
Hey.
There's been a few things that I'd like to share with you, and
Go right ahead.
okay, I've really also enjoyed very much your talk this evening, and as I had shared previously about my own experiences with some psychic phenomena. My experiences didn't seem to fit into anything that, in the way that you described it.
Define.
Okay, well, like the example of the neighbor that had passed away, and I knew who it was and where it happened. Where was the emotional connection? I didn't really know these very well.
You have a need to be connected to that event so that it can teach you things that you are learning, so that it can teach you to expand the ideas you have a very strong desire to fulfill within yourself. So you connected yourself to the event out of desire, out of need, to learn what you need to learn, because that event has propelled you in the direction that represents the path you want to be. These connections can be unconscious. We are not saying they are always conscious.
Okay, I don't know where the connection is, but
It does not have to be that complicated. The idea of the connection simply is to the event itself. The fact that it was in your proximity. Not that you have to say, well, what is my specific connection to that specific individual specifically? It is simply that circumstance was available to you, and you took them up on it because you needed to.
Okay. Last night I had I wanted to go see you in North Hollywood last night with a girlfriend and another friend, and I had made a prior commitment with a man I had met on Friday night.
Yes.
I didn't really want to go with him, and I don't know why I had accepted, but I was saying, okay, there must be something for me to do with this. But he was supposed to have called by 6 o'clock, and I hadn't heard from him, so I just said I was going to be, so said to myself and my friend I was going to go to see you. And my roommate was going to be watching my son, and when the phone rang, my psychic sense was saying I wouldn't have picked it up because I didn't want to hear from him, but I thought that it was her waiting, wondering why I wasn't there to pick her up yet. And I picked up the phone, and it was not her, it was him.
Okay.
And I was like, where was my psychic ability when I wanted it to be?
Exactly where it needed to be. Again, understand, you are confusing certain ideas. You are mixing them up. The idea is that you psychically functioned exactly as you needed to based upon what you believed to be true or necessary in your life. You simply drew yourself into the perfect action, the perfect reaction to represent what you knew you were picking up on. The exemplification of what you had chosen to do. Many ideas may seem to be reversed, but are still complete and full fruitions of psychic ability. In fact, there actually is a type of psychic manifestation called opposition. In that, many individuals will find that exactly, precisely, the opposite of what they think is going to happen, happens. Exactly the opposite. Not just something else. Exactly the opposite. It shows them that they are in touch, but what it may show them is that they are attempting to force their psychic functioning through their expectations, rather than simply allowing themselves to be naturally and in a relaxed state in touch with what they truly desire for their lives. So they cross their circuits, so to speak. You follow me?
Yes, and that makes total sense of what happened last night.
Then simply relax and recognize, back to square one, that the idea of everything that occurs in your life is there for a reason, and you can learn from it in a positive way. No need to feel that you have stopped functioning, that you have failed, that you are out of touch, that you are not psychically sensitive, and all of these other wonderful ideas.
It was just that when I wanted it to be there, it was like, where is it when I need it? Kind of thing.
What you get is what you think you need. What you want has nothing to do with what you believe you need. You gave yourself the situation you needed so that you would examine the very things you are examining now and decide whether or not you are going to have faith in yourself or not. You follow me?
Yes.
You give yourself an opportunity to experience the buttons within you that can still be pushed. There is no need to examine the ones you are already sure of. You follow me?
Yes, very much so.
So relax.
Thank
you are
you.
doing just fine.
Bashar.
Thank you. All right.
Were the pyramids built by extraterrestrials who came here in spaceships?
There was some assistance with what you call some of the very early ones, most of which do not exist on the surface of your world anymore, or have as of yet still been not discovered. Some of the very oldest of those that you are aware of were remnants of a shared technology, but not directly, let us say, constructed, nor did it have direct involvement as the older ones used to.
And how were they built?
Some of them, the older ones, were built along similar ideas, but built by members of your own civilization that had not yet forgotten the techniques. The later ones were generally constructed through manners of what you would call clever variations of mechanical leverage, some of which your modern society, since it no longer needs to know them, simply has forgotten about. Some of them, the older ones, were constructed through means of sonic nullification of gravity. This is a technique which still does exist upon your planet in very remote areas. Primarily, some of this understanding still exists in the areas you call India and Tibet.
There's been some news recently that another chamber has been found in the neck.
Yes, it is timing. There are a few chambers yet to discover as well. And as was already sensed, each of these chambers will be discovered at an appropriate timing that represents a new gateway, a new doorway, a new level of consciousness that your society evolves into. So now is one of those timings. Time to celebrate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes, yes.
Are you familiar with a system or a planet or a star called Ethos or Enos?
Not in that terminology. There may be other terminologies by which we would recognize the vibration.
Thank you.
Can you define further?
No.
Thank you.
Bashar?
One moment. What we will find right now, at least in the perception we have access to at this time, is that right now, from our point of view, unless there is more reason for solidification, the idea, as you are expressing it, is more representative of a particular relationship that certain individuals upon your planet may have to other fragments of other lives in other systems that they have as a collective representational symbolic idea.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Last week was the first time that I heard you speak, and it was really exciting for me. I went home that night, and I had some very vivid dreams.
Yes.
In one of them, I dreamt that I was communicating with you telepathically,
Yes.
and I wanted to know...
Our energy in general, the energy of our civilization, is available constantly to you all. And in your dream realities, many of you home in on that beacon and visit our civilization. Yes.
I also, in the same dream, was a little bit nervous because I felt that I was losing touch with my husband because of exploring psychic phenomena.
But you are gaining touch with yourself. You
Yeah.
cannot really lose touch with anything. Again, simply recognize that whatever the relationships that you form in your life are there for, are there to allow you to be in touch with yourself. And therefore, by being fully in touch with yourself, to share with the others in your lives the being you know yourself to be. If another individual does not wish to share the being that you are, then in that way, simply recognize that the situation may change by definition. But always, you will create a relationship that does represent your ability to express what you know to be true for you. This does not invalidate what they are going through, but simply their timing may be slightly different.
Yeah, I think I realized that.
Now, one methodology to allow that individual to become more synchronized with you is to simply be fully representative of the person you are. Thus, you give them an honest reflection to deal with. You follow me?
Yeah.
If you hide things because you are afraid of offending them, then they are not dealing with you and you are not being fair to them.
Yes, I see.
Being fair to them by being who you are then allows them the opportunity to truly decide whether they feel like they belong in the reality with you or not.
I also wanted to know, I felt a very instant rapport with my husband when I first met him, as though I
Yes.
had known him before.
Yes, you have.
Can you tell me anything about that?
Yes, but at this time we find that the specifics may not be necessary.
Okay.
First, begin to allow yourself to be who you need to be in the present, and then you will have access to all you need to know about any idea you have ever been in the past. You follow me?
Yeah.
Your willingness to do that also grants us more ability and accessibility to the idea of what you have been in the past, because in all reality, no pun intended, the idea of sharing your so-called past with you is more easily accomplished when there is not as great need to do so based upon a belief that you think you have to know that in order to be able to live your present life. You follow me?
Yes, I understand.
Not that understanding cannot be gleaned from those cognitions, but simply recognize that many individuals that you are now close to in this life, you have been close to many times, whatever idea you are being in this life brings with it enough information to totally understand this life. Then, with that point of view, you can explore what you will. All right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sharon. Yay.
I'm having a fascinating relationship with my parents.
All right.
As of last Christmas Eve, we've basically been on almost non-speaking terms. And I find it quite fascinating, the changes. But I'm interested in knowing, not a need, but I'm interested in knowing who this is being mostly of service to. I don't feel that these changes are so much of service to me, but rather to them, particularly my mother.
Now, of course, it is always to both.
Of course.
And in this way, again, if you find that you are relaxed about the situation, then you can simply recognize it may be an indication that all the exploration in that sense may be on their behalf.
And that pretty much describes the situation.
Yes.
Can you tell me in what way it's being of service to my mother? What's she getting out of it?
Ask her. Then you may instigate some of this communication. That is how you can be of service.
Well, see, it doesn't feel. I'm not excited to do that because.
Then don't ask.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to ask.
I mean, don't ask me.
Well, that I am excited about.
Then that is only a replacement symbol for the fact that you may truly be more excited about asking her than you think, but may be afraid to do.
No, it's not.
Then go ask.
You see, asking will change the experiment.
Asking is a part of the whole idea. It will not change anything. You already have a direct conduit to them. You are a part of the interaction. You're not objective.
Right, okay. Okay, well,
if you are curious to find out, then act as if you are part of the experiment, and you will be able to find out through your own resources.
okay, it's just that it's more exciting to me not to ask and just allow it to progress as it is.
All right.
And then I thought, well, if you were willing to give me some information, that would be great. If not, that's fine.
Well, I have given you the information that I can.
Okay.
It is our perception that any further information must come from an interaction between you.
Okay. And so what excites me is not to interact in that way, but just to allow her to continue with her progress where she is.
That may change within the next 3 of your months.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Are you familiar with an energy by the name of Masu?
To some degree.
Okay. A friend of mine called me today and told me a very strange story, and I would like if you could give me any idea.
Oh,
It was very strange to me. Maybe because I have never involved myself in any of these types of things before.
All right.
Okay, so she says that last night in L.A., that this entity called Masu said that in 3 weeks' time in Santa Barbara there was going to be an earthquake, and that there were a group of beings called the Pleiades.
Pleiadians.
Okay, thank you. That were going to surface at this point in time and blend with...
To some degree, there is going to be Pleiadian interaction in that area with that energy at that time.
Okay.
Yes. Now, recognize that the idea is not so much, let us say, a prediction of catastrophe. It is the idea of the recognition that that area contains individuals in your own civilization that are willing to express and exemplify an equal interaction with the idea of the Pleiadian energy, and thus find that they are co-creating a balance of that energy so that it does not have to be released catastrophically, but can be retransformed in a positive way, channeled through the beings in your civilization as they form recognizable identification with their own Pleiadian energy connections.
Well, that's
Okay.
okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On the ship of Old Israel, the mothership, is that only over the white hole energy? Is that the only place it's able to be viewed?
Are you speaking of the craft that centers over the area you call your Middle East?
Over the four corners.
In your United States?
Correct.
There are many craft associated with different energy points upon your world.
Is this in the linear grid system between Idlewild and Hilo, connected to the white hole in four corners?
What you are referring to as a white hole, we will assume you mean to be a free zone, an energy vortex.
Correct.
It is associated in that general area. It is also associated with other areas. Shasta is one of those areas. Other areas in your Arizona, New Mexico area are also involved as energy vortices. And for the same craft, an area in what you would call the heart or dead center of the area you call Colorado. Also one in Montana, and a few in the area you call Canada. All are associated with the same craft.
What is an energy vortex?
An energy vortex is a doorway, an energy conduit that allows there to be a linking between one level of reality and all other levels of reality. It is a flow, a flux of energy exchange between the different levels. A conduit of exchange and information and energy.
What do tornadoes, hurricanes, what's their function? What do they look
Will allow you to extrapolate certain ideas by simply laying down the foundation that all of your weather is a general representation of the emotional mass consciousness of your world.
Because I sensed that he had dust up at one time. In my perception, it was playful, almost as though it was practicing. It was like an individual.
Yes, in a sense, it can be represented as a fragment of the emotional consciousness in that way.
Mm-hmm. Interesting life form.
Yes.
What craft were
That's
you talking
why.
about? The craft is now?
In a sense. Now recognize that the idea of the craft being referred to, this is not our connotation, O Israel, in this way, that is a specific vibration that, in a sense, now again, not in a derogatory way do we mean this, in a sense that vibration is slightly outdated. But the idea is that there are representational crafts that do scan, identify, and connect into various energy points of your planet. There is one associated with that entire area we have already described. There is one associated with the area you call your Middle East, and surrounding an area also connected to what you call your Egypt in that way, and several areas in Eurasia. There is one associated with your North Polar area, one associated with your South Polar area. There are variations of this idea associated with specific points in your South American continent, and to some degree, variations of this idea yet again associated with what you call your African continent.
All from the same civilization?
No.
What civilizations are they from?
No.
Ah.
Some of them are Pleiadian.
Oh.
For now, that will suffice.
Okay.
Some of them, thousands of years. Now, we understand how that sounds translated into your linear time frame, so do not put a linear application on it. Mm-hmm. But that is how it would translate into linear time.
Bashar?
Hey.
You said that Earth, SSI, and 16 or Sirius are one consciousness.
Hey. A triad consciousness.
And that it seems like many of people on this planet are from different planets also.
Yes, no one is native, ultimately, to any place.
Will we see a connection in a sense? Will everyone see a connection to SSI and Sirius?
They may see their connections in various ways. They do not have to utilize the symbology precisely in that way. Because we exist in a slightly different dimensionality than you do, we are assisting in an unobtrusive way. The majority of the connections that are recognized, although there are some that are recognizable and traceable to our energies, will be to Sirius, to the Pleiades as well, and some to Arcturus. These will be the primary connections that will occur firstly.
What is Pleiades and Arcturus?
For now, the idea you call Pleiades is representative of a group of stellar systems associated with that constellation you call Pleiades, in that way, that represents, in a very literal sense, your, let us say, brothers, sisters, and cousins. You are both offshoots of a primary race.
Which tends to be more limited, the human version, or are those limitations existing in the Pleiades too?
Not to any great extent. Mostly the human version is the limited one.
They have, you're saying the humans there are pretty much equivalent to the humans here?
In many ways, but they are not limited.
As much, yeah. One question I have about Scientology's Ron Hubbard made many references over the years about a confederacy called the Marquette Confederacy. Would that be...
it is an old Orion connotation.
There we go. Yeah. I thought it was Orion.
Yes.
Is that an extinct...
so to speak, in what you would call your present-day awareness.
What he was describing at that time was pretty much an extinct view?
So to speak, yes.
Okay.
An old reality.
Are the Orions involved much in what's going on here at this time?
To some degree, yes, because now there has been the ability for the blending of light in the Orion systems for quite some time. So there is involvement with many of them as well.
Correct me if I'm sensing it not quite right, but is the Orion energy have a strong orientation to grow through negativity? Is that...
That was the old idea.
Was Hubbard what's the word, running off of momentum, or was he actually getting active interaction with
both? Recognized in this way, the idea of running off the momentum was simply fulfilling one of the ideas that many Orions incarnated on your Earth plane for to begin with. The idea of the direct interaction is representative of setting up real-time scenarios that would allow the reincarnated Orions to get in touch with the old momentum and begin to explore phases of it that would allow them to begin to blend it. You follow me? The idea of the older systems, basically represented in the old Orion methodologies, were to explore the realms of negativity that had been paramount in those systems long ago. The idea now in being born within your Earth system is to, let us say, regurgitate all of that, bring it up to the surface so that you can now balance it with the understanding that all of that no longer need apply, and that many changes have occurred within the original Orion system. There is much that is of the light in the Orion systems at this time. And now you can recognize that you have both sent that energy to them through all the reincarnational cycles you have experienced on this planet as Orion consciousness, and now you can also receive from them what you have allowed them to become in their blended polarity idea.
Do you see Hubbard as at that time, a fairly, well, two questions actually, as a missionary or a commander, or...
So to speak, as a catalyst.
Yeah, but was he on specific orders?
Only his own.
Only that? I sense that he was very independent in that way.
Everyone is only on their own specific orders.
How specific are the orders for each being?
As specific as you create them to be.
Bashar?
Hey!
What is money for?
Money is one representational exchange tool to represent symbolically the idea you call abundance, which is a natural state of being, and does not always have to be represented by money, though in your society often is, and can be. There is nothing wrong with that manifestation in that way, simply that many of you assume that is the only way you can manifest abundance, and it is not. You follow me? Thank you.
Bashar?
You!
Just a couple minutes ago you said that no one is actually native to any planet or whatever, to anyone. And could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Well, you simply are inherently non-physical. All the physical universe is your creation, collective creation. Thus, in that way, you are at the same time native to them all, but do not really come from any one of them.
Good. So we the only thing we're native to is our signature vibration. Would that be a fair statement? Or?
In a sense, yes. You are native to existence, and you are native to the vibrational representation you are of existence.
And that's it, not Orion or this or that?
Everything else is a part of the dance.
And we make up the music. Huh?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Bashar?
You!
Last month, August, I spent in Greece, and I was picking up energies and vibrations like I have never felt before in intensity.
All right, you were reconnecting with other ideas, some past life ideas.
I felt that I went through a great cleansing and a burial and a rebirth.
Yes.
And I feel that also happening with my business.
Yes.
And was
Why should it be any different since it is a part of you?
And with my body as well.
Yes. Everything is connected.
I was wondering if you had any visions or notions about what I should do.
Should? There are no shoulds. What do you want to do? What excites you?
That's what we were talking about.
Yes.
Well,
excitement. That is what you can trust. Always. 100%. Follow your excitement. That's what it is there for. Your excitement is there to let you know that whatever it is that excites you represents the path you chose to be. It is your arrow. It is your barometer. Follow it. Trust it. It will always lead you into situations that will support you automatically, effortlessly.
I find that excitement can sometimes be nervousness and fear.
That is only the invalidation of the excitement. That is not willing to believe that you can trust it. It is the same energy. But you are not believing in it. You are not believing in you. You follow me?
Yes.
Trust it, trust it, trust it. It has no choice but to work. It is the mechanism of creation. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. You!
Thank you, and happy anniversary.
And to you.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge and thank you very much for your assistance in co-creating with my painting, as I had invited you to do last week.
And yours.
I thank you. I had a very exciting ride home in which an apparition, it was more solid than an apparition, but there were actually a gossamer wing that attached itself to my right mirror on the side of my car. I know you know this because this is a form of an acknowledgement. And I just caught it out of my peripheral vision when I was driving at first. And during the hour and a half drive home, I became more and more excited at these wings of a butterfly, or however I chose to translate it. I thought it was very interesting that it was on the mirror as a reflection of myself.
Very good.
I enjoyed many possibilities of the symbolism involved. When I slowed down the car, I became a little anxious that if it were actually a piece of physical universe material, it might fall off and then the whole bubble would burst. But as it turns out, it did not fall off the car, if indeed it was a real piece of physical universe material. And I played games with myself all the way home. And
you have a good time.
And with you. Yes, thank you. I had a wonderful time. And I'm still exploring the possibilities of how that might be utilized in a painting, because there's so many potential symbolisms between
and all are valid.
Right. So that's very exciting. I'd like to thank you. I also have a question which is in a little more serious nature, but maybe we can keep it light.
All right, I'm ready.
I prefer to keep it light, so I'm sure between the two of us we can do that. Okay, as you undoubtedly know, we are currently experiencing epidemics of AIDS and herpes on this planet. My first question is why, and the second question is, considering that these diseases are spread by geometric progression and that they can lie dormant for years, how can a single person ensure that his or her prospective partner is clean?
First of all, to answer the second one first, you can simply recognize that if you know you don't need that symbol in your life, then you will not attract that symbol in your life. Secondly, we have shared the idea of the reasons for the creation of that idea many times, so we will be brief in the recapitulation since you do have access to this information in the recordings and the transcripts that already exist.
Thank you. I'm the new kid on the block.
That is all right. But, briefly, it is a result, generally, of a long-standing habitual ritual of your society fearing to face and integrate the male and female energies within each individual. Thus, it became necessary for certain individuals to be born into your society that would reflect a preponderance of more one side than the other in what you call an opposite effect. Male expressing femininity, female expressing masculineness, so that the mainstream of your society would see that each individual contains the potential of both. But since your society chose to continue to be locked into invalidation in that way, it still judged these individuals and refused to take responsibility for the blending of those energies. As more and more invalidation became imbued with the energy of the momentum of your society, then it simply reached a point where your society could not create any other way other than to force itself to lower its barriers before it would be willing to incorporate all beings and all phases of energy into its society, begin to blend harmoniously with these energies, these polarities within yourself. And so you have created a symbolic representation of the lowering of your immunity, because now you are exposed to everything, and you must deal with it.
Wherein, if we had chosen to, rather than resist the situation that was developing, if we had recognized that and in a sense let it flow through us,
you would not have disease on your world at all.
Right.
no form of it.
Thank you very much, Bashar.
Bashar.
Thank you. Hey!
Bashar, this new chapter you're opening, is this going to be another 3-year program?
Hey!
What would be some of the differences or some of the highlights that we could anticipate?
With respect to the idea of the physiological channel, there will be more blending in that way, so that the ideas that the physiological channel wishes to express upon your planet will be able to be expressed in a manner that will allow the physiological channel to know that they can consciously create their version of the blending of our energy and express it in your world in that way, so that they can recognize they will always be channeling. The same goes for all of you. The idea, one of the exemplifications of the next phase, is that you will all put into action the ideas you desire to be. So there will be more equalization apparent in your reality of these interactions, more opportunity to actually physicalize the manifestations of the things you all desire to experience in your reality. Therefore, there will be more direct interactiveness. It will occur less often, however. You follow me?
Yeah, more direct contact on a meditative level.
In a sense, we will now become more actively involved with you and thus experience these types of interactions less and less often, because you will be putting into actual activation. In other words, you will be going out in the world and doing more, so you need to talk about it less. Talking in that way is all well and good. Doing it is the actual representation of equal communication with us. So, everyone will begin to do more and talk less.
Thank you. You've referred yourself twice now. First time I've heard it, you referred yourself in the singular tonight.
Hey.
Does that mean anything, represent any change, or what does that mean?
It does represent some degree of that ability to begin to recognize that each and every individual does make a difference to the whole. And at the same time, it is I and we. And they do not cancel each other out. Now you are strong enough to understand that becoming a we does not cancel out the I, but in fact strengthens it.
Very good picture or something?
Of course.
I had contained an aspect I wanted to share about the idea of pictures of reality.
Guys.
And there's a lot of preaching and stuff going on, the idea that one has to have faith. But behind that is a picture of reality that if one doesn't have this one thing, their world is going to fall apart.
Now, recognize something. You are always using your faith. Always. It is not a mechanism you don't use. What is being shared is that the idea now can be that you can use your faith to create negativity, or you can use it to create positivity. But you are always using faith to create that, because your physical reality is the result of what you truly, faithfully believe it will be.
Yeah, also what I'm saying is that there's an idea there that if one doesn't focus on the positive faith, then the unconscious, so-called, negative things that one could emerge.
Yay.
In other words, using faith to hold out so-called garbage and that sort of thing. That's what I'm talking about.
There are aspects of talking about faith that may seem to be positive aspects that can still be negative.
But it's motivated out of fear.
Yes, that is why it's a negative aspect.
Right.
Faith without fear, in that way, is a relaxed state, not a have-to state. It is automatic and self-perpetuating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Do not be sorry.
I was just curious as to people who consider themselves, quote, devil worshippers,
Yes.
Which they see as a religion
All right.
that is...
In a sense, let us say, to give a definition in a colloquial term, they are supporters of segregation and limitation.
Yeah. Very much so. What I guess I'm getting at is there a very strong connection with them and the Orion energies?
Some of the old Orion energies, yes. For they may still be individuals who are understanding their connection to everything only from the point of view that in order to be connected to everything, you have to dominate it. You follow me? The idea of an individual coming from negativity, coming from separation, coming from limitation, is that they will still, on a fundamental level, know they are connected to everything, but will not give themselves conscious recognition of this as long as they continue to believe that their power lies in separation. So the only way they will be able to feel as if they are fulfilling their, let us say, heartfelt recognition, their subconscious recognition of their connection to everything, will be to express it through the attempt to dominate all that they see in their reality, to control it, rather than simply recognize that every individual is as powerful as they need to be to have anything they desire in life without having to hurt anyone else or themselves in order to get it. Because they know they are connected to everything. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Therefore, the idea you call satanic worship is simply a belief that you are not truly, actually connected to everything. And therefore, you must try to control it in order to get it to do what you want. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
If I may,
Okay.
I had an experience today in dealing with the bureaucracy of the school system in
Yes.
which I work.
Yes.
And
Oh, how very exciting!
yes, it was very exciting.
Yes!
Um,
This is teaching you many things. How ecstatic. Please continue.
yes, it taught me a lot of things today.
Still is.
It still is, yes. Still working on integrating it. They had made an error in our check 2 weeks ago, and it was kicked out of the computer, so we didn't get the proper pay. And
All right.
we were told that it was going to be corrected by today, and it had not been.
Okay. That is because this is no error. It is a completely perfect representation of the collective beliefs of the individuals participating in this reality. Well, you know, those bureaucracies. This is what always happens when you have to deal with a bureaucracy. Everyone knows that. Therefore, you are rewarded with an example. Therefore, it is no error. It is a perfect reflection of the combined beliefs about what the situation is needed for. Because it may be putting individuals in touch with their own capability to become involved in the situation to a greater degree and recognize that the individuals involved are the bureaucracy they are experiencing.
Okay.
No separation.
Okay.
Integration.
Right. My feeling of being a rebel gets that button gets pushed in situations like this.
You can be a nice rebel.
That's what I worked on today, which is real different for me.
Very good.
I came off in a much lighter way.
Very good.
Than I have in the past when situations like this have come to me.
Yes, because you are learning that you are powerful enough to get what you need without having to accost anyone or accuse anyone in order to get it.
I worked with affirming the payroll clerk for her for her efforts and trying to get this resolved and bring her into the solution instead of staying in the problem. And I kept affirming throughout the whole thing that for every problem there is a solution, and that I will persist and persevere until the solution of the money
all right.
comes to be.
But your perseverance does not have to create a struggle.
That's what it was today.
All right. That is simply only because you are still in the habit of thinking that it has to be. You are learning. It will become easier and easier the more you are willing to allow it to be more and more effortless. The more you are willing to recognize that you are in touch with whatever aspect of the situation you need to be, and that communication is quite clear on these levels.
The last thing about this situation was that when it resolved itself with the head supervisor who I went to, writing me a personal check in face of the situation, and I somehow, that was not what I wanted, but yet I had created a need that I did need this money,
Yes.
and I do.
Yes.
But I didn't feel any satisfaction in having received it. It was like, it didn't feel like a win, even though I got the money and it was resolved.
Yes.
Because it was not resolved, the payroll gave it to me, and it had to come out of his check. I felt
yes. What, to attach on a personal level?
No, it wasn't it wasn't the attachment. It was just like, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like...
Why should it feel like a victory? This is not a war.
Yeah, it was like I wanted to be, that was the thing, I think I wanted to beat the system. I wanted to...
But you see, that is the whole idea. As long as you think you have to beat the system, then you are going to constantly be being beaten up. You are the system. If you're going to beat the system, you're only beating yourself. Relax.
So I manipulated this. It felt like I ended up, even with
Yes.
my conscience...
You allowed the system to change. You allowed the definition to flow into something else. That is overcoming the system. If you think you have to fight it on its own terms and win that way, then you have not won. You have only created another system that is similar and reinforces the first one. You follow me?
Not quite.
In other words, if you think you have to beat someone at their own game, so to speak, all you do is create the game to continue on a larger scale, because now you are playing their game.
What would you have suggested that I had done differently?
You did what you needed to do. You allowed the system to change and allowed them to begin to play your game. You follow me? You allowed them to come through in another way other than what is generally represented by the bureaucracies as you think of them. You are finding that there are other conduits, that there are loopholes, so to speak, in the definition of anything that you create to be a bureaucracy or a government or a structure on your planet. And that they can transform, that they can be malleable, that they can be flexible, and therefore not so rigid. So then there is not so much rigidity to feel like you have to fight. You follow me?
Yeah.
This does not seem to be settling into you. Are you saying that you would prefer to fight?
No. No, I...
Then why do you feel that you should have done something differently?
So that I would feel better about the resolution than I do.
What is the basic definition without emotion of the resolution?
The basic resolution would be...
Oh, one moment. What was the basic resolution you were seeking? Was it not to be paid?
Yes.
Did you not get paid?
Yes.
Well then,
I got it.
why is it so important that it has to happen in a certain manner, as long as the effect is the same and does not invalidate anyone else's integrity. Is that not a win? I will say something about winning later on. All right?
All right.
Relax. And at this time, each and every one of you enjoy a brief break. All right, I'll say. Technique time. Each and every one of you that wishes to participate at this time in any way, shape, or form that you decide to participate, now. Close your eyes. Relax. Become comfortable. Take 3 of your deep breaths. Now, allow yourselves to recognize as you are relaxing that there is no right way and there is no wrong way to do this technique. The way your consciousness, the way your imagination interprets it in terms of the visualizations that you have will be sufficient. Allow yourself to recognize that visualization specifically is not even necessary. The feelings will do. Trust your imagination. Trust that you will give yourself the symbols you require. And that, in fact, you can, for the period of the exercise, you can implicitly trust, at least for the following few moments, that regardless of whether or not you think you are doing it the way you need to do it, you are, in fact, doing it the way you need to do it. And you will get out of it what you need to get out of it. So, set aside all preconceived notions of how it should be done, or how it should feel, or what you should see. You will have a tendency to see or feel what we will describe. But if it changes, let the change be a part of the exercise, not an interruption in it. Do you all follow along? Thank you. Then, first and foremost, your primary requirement in this exercise is to simply enjoy it. All right? Now, what we will be doing is what we can refer to as synchronization of the mental field, the electromagnetic field of your planet that allows you to create awareness of each other, that allows you to telepathically communicate your shared reality and reinforce it, or deviate from it. Therefore, you will be getting in touch with the patterns of energy that communicate the idea between you of your collective reality and represent your individual reality within it. This is also what we refer to as identification, or at least one aspect of it. 3 more deep breaths. Let everything now that drifts into your awareness also become a part of and not an interruption in the overall process of this technique. for everything you have ever done and anything you can imagine is a part of you, a valid part of the integration you are now performing within this exercise. Breaths. And as you take these breaths, imagine that your physical, your mental, and your spiritual selves are aligning, merging, blending. In whatever way you visualize it, this is the correct way for you. Enjoy the merger, enjoy the blending, enjoy the overlap. Allow yourself to experience the happiness of the joining in that way, and the cognition of the alignment it allows you to feel. Trust that you are feeling that alignment. Trust that regardless of how you choose to feel that alignment, you will experience the effect of that alignment, regardless of what portions of your mentality may think otherwise, regardless of what portions of your mentality decide to cloak it in ways you may not used to have thought represented an alignment. Trust that it is. It is your way of doing it right now. It is the perfect way you need to do it. Now, allow yourself, do not take the deep breath yet, but in the next series of 3 breaths, you will, with your imagination, again, in whatever way, shape, or form it occurs, form around your entire physical body a transparent crystalline blue bubble that you can see through. 3 deep breaths, and allow this bubble to form. Know it is there, whether you can perceive it or not. 3 deep breaths. Allow yourself at this time to simply, for a moment, immerse yourself in the experience of that bubble. You are immersed within it. You can imagine it to be, in a sense, hollow. You can imagine it to be filled with the same type of energy that represents itself in the shell of the bubble. You can imagine yourself, if you wish, to actually be a manifestation of that energy at the center of the bubble, in much the same way that when you drop pebbles in a pond and you see the waveforms interacting with each other from 2 different pebbles, those waveforms, as you see them overlap, can be what represents the solidified form you think of as your body. Allow yourself to recognize that your body is simply a solidified form of the same blue, crystalline, electromagnetic energy of which the sphere is composed. Allow yourselves to dwell within that for a brief moment. Feel it out. Try it on. Wiggle around in it in your imagination. Breathe. Know that you are very comfortable breathing that fluid, that electromagnetic fluid, in and out. In and out. You can even imagine that every pore, every cell is breathing that fluid in and out, allowing you to feel at once invigorated and yet relaxed. excited and at peace, smooth, and yet containing an infinite number of potential directions, activations, and energy. Feel the energy coruscating, scintillating, tingling in every atom of your being as you breathe it in and out. Feel its coolness. Feel the warmth it may generate within you. Feel the feelings that you create with regard to being immersed within this energy fluid, within this matrix. Feel the expansion of your awareness. You can allow yourself now to imagine that you actually are this bubble of energy. Become, in your imagination, the bubble of energy. Continue to assume that it still has a skin that is slightly different from the rest of the energy in the bubble. It can be fluid, it can be crystalline, it can be gelatinous, it can be light, it can be any way you choose to think of the skin, but allow it to have a slightly different consistency on the surface of the sphere that you are. But throughout the interior, allow that to be a homogeneous fluid, a homogeneous electric fluid, or magnetism, or energy, or light, or water, or anything you desire it to be. Allow it to be homogeneous, and simply trust that no matter what your imagination comes up with in terms of images, it is homogeneous at this time. 3 more. Relaxing and enjoyable deep breath. Now, while you are doing that, and while you are simply enjoying floating as that being, as the energy bubble, allow yourself to recall the individuals, the other individuals that are in the room with you at this time, that you arrived at this interaction with. Now, you do not have to be specific. Just know they are there. Now that you are aware of the other bubbles, be aware of one more thing. The surface, the skin, the outer layer of each and every bubble vibrates in a slightly different, subtle pattern, even though they may all vibrate in accord, in a synchronous pattern throughout. Allow yourself to perceive the subtleties of the differences. When you have done this, just as a general recognition, allow yourself then to look at the pattern of your own crystalline surface. Recognize its vibratory rate. Make a comparison. See the differences in the different vibratory rates. See that you can, in fact, recognize distinct individuals simply by the differences in the pattern of the vibratory rate of the surface of the sphere. Now, do this. Pick out another sphere's vibratory pattern, something that attracts you for whatever reason. You do not have to know the individual consciously. Simply pick it out and begin to attempt to make your surface membrane vibrate to that pattern. Mimic it. Copy it. Play around. Play a game of follow the leader. Feel within yourself the changes that take place within the idea that you are when you allow the surface pattern you have now changed your surface into, feel the surface pattern creating ripples within the homogeneous fluid throughout the sphere that you are. See how it creates differences of approach, differences of feelings, nuances that represent what you perceive to be another individual's representational pattern of life. Their beat of the heart, their beat of the drum. Now, allow your pattern to simply go back to the pattern you had before, your zero rest state natural pattern. Trust, for now, that whether it seems to completely go back to what you had before, it is back to your natural pattern. We're not saying it has to be the old pattern, but it is your natural pattern, the one that represents the you now are after having identified with the other individual's pattern as well. Now you know you have become more. You have shared in a way that allows you to know you will always be your own individual. At the same time, you have the capability of identifying with the patterns of other individuals and creating a model for yourself so that you can sense your version of how the vibration plays through your fluid, so that you can see how their pattern, their point of view, can be acclimatized to your point of view, to allow you to have an understanding of what their point of view can show you about yourself. By trying on their clothes, by walking in their shoes temporarily, you now understand what it means to be that version of yourself. This increases the opportunity to recognize that you can be a multidimensional idea, identifying with an infinite number of patterns, and at the same time you will always be your own individual. You will not lose your identity, but you will become the collective result of all the identities that you identify with. And therefore, sharing, opening, exchanging patterns to try them on, try them out, can become something that does not have to create fear, loss of identification, loss of individuality, or any of the notions of separation in that way. Allow yourself to know that at any given moment, as you create and recreate this technique for yourself, you are quite capable of knowing, primarily because you are in this state quite willing to be loving of all other individuals, and therefore you are quite capable of knowing what another individual may be thinking, may be feeling. This is telepathy. This is psychic functioning. It is forming your own identificational pattern, representing another's pattern. This is so you can recognize that you have the capability of expressing your version of everyone else, and by being in synchronous harmony with their pattern, you can see their point of view identically as being the individual you are is necessary for you to proceed. You can do this exercise when you are in relaxed state, or when you wish to become in a relaxed state. And it can give you great insight into the individuals around you that you play with, that you work with, so that you can come out of this technique with a greater understanding of their point of view, and thus arm yourself with the appropriate tools to create a flow of communication between you, rather than struggle to understand each other. 3 deep breaths and re-enter the surroundings of your room. Always knowing, always trusting that this technique will place you squarely in touch, firmly grounded, and in connection with the entire electromagnetic understanding not only of your own civilization, but also, where appropriate, with the feeling, the generalized electromagnetic feeling of any other level of consciousness that you so desire to be in touch with. It will come through in whatever format is necessary for you to be able to express that energy in your own reality. We thank you for this opportunity of sharing in this way. There will now be a brief time frame for sharing. Yes.
This is friend of mine who wants to be more and so that he can participate in this and learn about the questions.
Oh, what?
I've already sent him 6 pages. I won't get into all that part. But anyway, many years ago, he was involved. He had encephalitis, and during this time, he was in a coma off and on for 3 months. And also during this time, he felt that his energy was being used in Tibet for some reason. And when he came out of it, he not only lived and was not paralyzed, he had renewed perception.
Okay.
I think I know the answer to this, but perhaps you would like to say something about that for him.
What is your answer?
My answer is that he was doing some work on another level of himself, and perhaps it involved some friends of his instead.
In a sense, he is a very strong integrator, and there was aspect of bilocation in that event. At times, there actually was another physiological representation of himself elsewhere in your world.
Yes, he's a very, very powerful person, as we all are.
Yes.
But this person is very much disturbing others, and
yes.
has done so.
Yes.
Quite often.
This individual knows what they are doing, and in this way knows that they have the energy they desire.
Yes, one thing he did say, anyway, what he said was that he didn't feel, he was trying to get off this planet, and I said, oh really? And he goes, yeah, well, I just feel that my energies are not being utilized properly. And
that is up to him.
Yeah, I know. Well, we got into that.
All right.
The other thing I would like to say, I would like to share with you, is that it's so fantastic that we're talking about this idea of sharing another viewpoint. This week what I've experienced, I told you that I had this bird, and the bird grew up, and I let her go on my birthday, and that was all a very lovely mythology. This week I met a person who flies private jet airplanes. I'm going to go in one of those. But this person, there's a wonderful friendship there, but this person also is opposed to all of this stuff. But what I'm finding fascinating about it is that I'm enjoying that.
Yes.
It's actually fun, and there's no...
What a surprise.
It's lovely. There's no bite in it.
Yes.
And so what I'm seeing is that... I don't know what this is. What I'm seeing is that the two can exist very harmoniously.
How about that?
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
And so the idea of going up in jet planes to me is just more of the acceleration of that idea into the fourth density.
Very good. You have now become the bird.
And another thing I would like to say to you that I never get to say, and that we all feel, and I always forget that I wanted to say it. When you close, you always say, there is one thing that we will never, ever be able to do. And it always just kills me when you say it. And that is to express how much we love you. And I want you to know that every time you say that, it is reflected back to you by all of us. We do love you.
How often
the idea of rings upon rings of reality.
Rings upon rings of reality.
Remember?
Yes, of course.
Well,
how could I forget such a stimulating conversation?
An idea of, I wouldn't align this, that there would be a larger ring which would allow a more contained ring of reality, whereby individuals would be engaged in energy theft and that sort of thing. I've heard.
You mean in the idea that energy theft is possible?
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to. I was containing that as being an optional reality. That's not a universal type truth. My universal truth would contain an idea that that's just an optional idea. That's something that one could engage in, but it's not a very necessarily a universal activity.
No. The idea is, as you have only restated, that the truth is composed of all truths.
And likewise, I haven't ever heard you discuss the idea of, or maybe you've discussed it, but I haven't been there, of the effects of disembodied co-inhabitants of the body, disembodied spirits and that sort of thing.
Co-inhabitants?
Well, there is that reality which says that clusters of individuals living simultaneously with someone.
You mean in the same body, so to speak?
Yeah, so to speak, right.
All right.
But I was just defining that as that's another optional reality, not necessarily.
Yes, it does not, as we perceive it, truly manifest in your level of reality.
Oh, is it an astral type activity?
Let us say, from our perspective, it is more of an alternate reality type activity.
But one could very easily get off that wavelength, and those things would not be pertinent realities.
You can, in your reality, create the illusion of that idea, but it would not be as literal as it is in some other realities, simply because of the definition of your reality.
Yeah, but in worlds where it is on a spiritual, perhaps an astral, non-physical level or whatever, where it is more germane.
All right. Yes.
Is it something one could still move off that wavelength, of course, if those are not influences?
Yes.
Just by choice.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar?
One moment.
Bashar, earlier this evening you mentioned about weather changes in regards to mass consciousness, and which reminded me...
Mass conscious emotionality.
Thank you. Mass conscious emotionality. It reminded me of a gentleman that I met about a year ago who had basically given me the same data. And he also mentioned a group called the Golden Ones. His name is Steve Groves, and I was wondering if you could tell me any more about this life form, or this energy form. He says he's a messenger, and he was here to help the planet Earth.
So are you.
That's true. But I was wondering if you could give me any more about this Golden Ones and the concept that he was...
Thank you. All we can share at this time, because we do not wish to label it any further, is that it is representative to some degree of what you may call a higher, quote-unquote, realm of consciousness that may be mostly non-physiological entities, consciousnesses that are connected through assistance to your planet Earth and function as what you might refer to as a, quote-unquote, hierarchy. But not really.
Okay.
They do represent larger rings. But in this way, the idea is simply that they are of assistance as co-creators of the realities you are experiencing with regard to what you now desire for your own expansion and awareness of yourself, also existing on that level.
Okay. Something else that he was putting across was that it was up to this group that it can either be positive or negative circumstances for the planet.
Yes. It is not up to them in terms of control.
How is it up to them?
It is up to them to assist in the co-creation of whatever you choose.
Or like catalysts?
Sort of. They will support the idea. This specific level will support whatever idea of the transformation you are willing to believe is necessary.
Oh, okay. How much interaction do they actually have? How much?
As much as you desire.
Right.
But only to the point where you are taking responsibility for the reality you are creating. Thank you. Hey!
The drill that you are the technique.
Oh, good.
I feel like a drill going into it.
All right, Sergeant Bashar.
Anyway, it's going to be very helpful in relation to something I'm going to ask a question about, but I still would like to get a little enlightenment in this area. My husband is pursuing his spirituality in
is it running away from him?
He's going a different direction than I am.
Yes, by definition, he's a different individual.
Well, it's really more than that.
If you say so.
Well,
If you are willing to make more of it.
Well, he has quite a resistance on
Yes.
anything that has to do with channeling or
So
any
what?
things. Well, that's no problem. All I'm
right.
wanting is maybe your perception of where he's at, what direction he's going, and how this difference is going to affect
He's
our
at
relationship.
where he needs to be. How do you think it will affect your relationship? I can tell you this. It will obviously be that your relationship will transform into whatever the definition of the individuals within it care to create themselves to be. Period. If you need to continue to interact physically, you will. If you don't, you won't.
Well, I think that's definitely going to continue. There's things that I wish I could understand a little more, and I thought perhaps your perception...
In what way do you wish to understand them? And why do you think you need to understand them in that way in order to simply continue to be the person you know yourself to be?
I think I need it for that reason.
Why do you think you need it?
So that I may just understand him better and create a better relationship because of...
All right. Well, if you wish to understand him better, why don't you ask him to explain himself?
That's a very touchy subject for me.
You mean it is touchy when you ask somebody to explain themselves relative to the way you think they should explain themselves? But if you make it understood that what you are asking is simply for them to explain themselves on their own terms of validation, why would that be touchy? You are willing to accept their terms as valid.
Yes, I am. But
well then, then that is his explanation.
All right. Well, I have another area that you can shed a little light on. I seem to be...
I cannot shed any light on anything.
Well,
you are the one that controls the switch.
Right. But I think you have a way of asking or saying something that helps me listen to you.
All right.
I'm being very successful in not being able to create the affluence I believe that I would like to have. And I'm doing it very well. I'm not able to create that influence. So I put a lot of stops there. And
for now, let us be very compact about this, and we will refer you to someone else. There already exists quite a lovely technique through the entity you call Lazarus for the idea of getting in touch with what it is that you desire and manifesting. Approach the idea of accessing the causal plane. Do that. See if that assists you. If it does not, we will speak again. But I think it will. This goes for all of you.
Sure.
Yes.
Could you give any more information on the causal plane?
As we have said, access the information for now that already exists in your society.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. From your perspective, would you comment on the idea known as divine will?
Divine will. All right. It can be. Now, have you already been present when we spoke about the idea of the free will of the higher self and the free will of the physical self?
No.
All right. We will be brief. The idea is that there is two types of free will. Free will of higher self, which you may refer to as, at least by proxy, divine will. And free will of the physical self. The free will of the higher self may be interpreted by the physical self to be what you call fate, destiny, predestination, divine will, and these ideas. But this is only expressed in your physical life in the most generalized of themes, the most generalized of terms. Let us say, for example, that the higher consciousness in physical life wishes to send a fragment of itself into physicality to explore a certain theme, which we will call a general hallway. Well, all right, well, the divine will that the physical entity, the physical fragment, will perceive will be that the physical fragment must walk down that hallway. In that sense, the physical fragment will usually have no choice. However, how the physical fragment walks down that hallway that has been chosen by the higher self is completely under the auspices of the free will of the physical consciousness. So, how you do it, whether you run, whether you walk, whether you crawl, whether you fly, whether you go backwards, whether you go in the light, whether you go in the dark, whether you go alone, whether you go with friends, whether you swim, whether you go upside down, whether you go fast, whether you go slow, is up to you. Whether it is positive, whether it is negative, or variations thereof, is up to you as a physical being. But walk down that hall, you will. Now, but that is only in the most generalized of ideas. It is not that the higher consciousness specifically says, in order to learn this, you must stub your toe. No. It says, you will create whatever type, positive or negative, of situations you, as my physical representative in physical reality, decide to create for yourself to represent the idea of your connection to, let us say, physicality in that way. That is the perhaps general theme. Explore the idea of physical action and reaction. All right, bang, ouch. That is one way. Or simply, I move from here to there because of friction, action, reaction. All right, both of those are valid. I understand the principle. Thank you, physical self. That will do. You follow me?
Yes.
Does that assist you?
Yes. One more question.
Hey!
Yeah. When standing confronting several hallways in front of you, what's the best way to choose?
All right. First of all, recognize that it is not a confrontation. And that a decision does not have to be a difficult thing. You can allow whichever one needs to stand out to do so. If you find that they are equal, then obviously it doesn't matter which one you take. Your excitement, whichever represents your level of excitement, take that one. If you find that both or several are represented by the same degree of excitement, then allow whichever one comes into timing first to be the one you take. Do you follow me?
Yes.
Generally speaking, one of them, because of what your linear time reality is, one of them will manifest sooner than another. Take that one. All right?
Yes, thank you.
For you! Yes!
Would you please identify some of the general themes that you refer to as what the higher consciousness is going for?
Exploration of the polarity, exploration of abundance, exploration of deservability, exploration of relationships, these kinds of things.
Okay.
Thank you. You. Then you.
Two things. One is you've said a few times that all life or our lives, and I'm not sure which one it is all one event?
Yes, all, everything.
Okay. Is that in a general sense or in an individual sense?
Everything. Both.
Both.
All of it.
Okay.
Any way you can mean it.
Okay. All right. Right. Okay. So if all that is all one event.
Yes.
And if this lifetime is all one event.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And if I think I've spotted that one event, what do I do with it?
Spotted it.
Spotted it. Realized what one event that is.
You live it.
Oh, then I must not have it.
Oh, yes, you do.
You are it.
You are it, yes, you are it.
Right.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Yeah. Perhaps you're simply confused by the terminology. Okay. Everything is the same one thing, manifesting in multitudinous, multidimensional, simultaneous aspects. Mm-hmm. So, each and every one of those aspects, in and of itself, is also valid as your version, this time, of the whole event. So live the life you are. That is what your event is. You follow me?
Okay. So if I think that I have spotted a particular repeating situation, that is not it.
That is simply one aspect of the whole event.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Not really.
Okay.
You really can't be.
Okay. Right. Okay. Secondly, last week I mentioned to you that I had this dear friend that had come across my path and bopped in and then bopped out again. And we bopped out. And we were exploring that idea a little bit. And this friend bopped back into my space.
Re-bop. No. You are in the midst of your life. You will find out what you need to know.
Right.
You don't want me to unwrap all the presents and spoil Christmas for you.
No, but I always love to open one on Christmas morning.
All right. Then open it.
Right.
And discover what you will. Perhaps the re-bopping is the present itself.
Oh. You might like to know that Victoria still has a Christmas tree up, by the way.
I wasn't lying.
Then Merry Christmas. Yes?
I have a couple questions that
All
I don't
right.
understand, basically about reincarnation.
All right.
When somebody reincarnates,
yes.
Are they the only ones that decide what they want to come back as? Or do they have other...
You make a agreement with others. You co-create the situation. But in terms of your part in the scenario, yes, you are the only one that makes the final decision.
And there's no...
It is not forced, no.
Okay. The other question I have is, well, who are the other people that you make the agreement with? Are they...
The ones that are in your life with you.
Yeah.
Your parents, first of all, since they give birth to you.
Okay. And then...
Any of the friends that you meet, any of the associations that you meet, relationships, so on, so forth. This also includes the idea that some of your friends in other lives don't always physicalize with you in this one, but sometimes act as guides.
Okay, the other question I have is, why would somebody come into a life and then commit suicide? Is that planned? Is suicide planned?
Suicide, conscious suicide, is, let us say, the only loophole that exists within the contract you make with your higher self. It is a, more or less, negation of the divine will, of the higher consciousness's free will. However, once you extract yourself from physical reality, usually because as an individual You have not been taught that you have control over your reality, so you do not believe that you can change the events in your life, so you run away from them through the idea of physical death. But once you extract yourself from the physical reality, you are once again the higher self that made the original decision. And 99.9% of the times, you will re-inject yourself back into a similar life immediately. Because you know you did not want to leave it. You want to learn all the way to the contractual end of that life, what it is you want to learn.
What about abortion? Is that the same? Why would a person want to reincarnate into a woman?
There are entities, levels of consciousness, whose experience of physical reality is, let us say, the first time around. They wish to slowly get their feet wet. The idea you call abortion so that they will know they do not have to exist for a very long period of time in physical reality before they will be released once again.
Isn't that very painful?
No. The total soul consciousness does not enter a physical body until exactly just prior to physical birth. And since there is still that much control from the other side, there is no real pain there. You follow me?
Yes. Thank you. Bashar?
Briefly.
Is that the same then as a miscarriage?
Can be, yes. That can simply be an automatically induced idea. Recognizing the timing, recognizing there is no need for what you call the fruition of the birth, physically. And it is also, to some degree, what is represented by what you call crib death. Because up to approximately 3 years of age, the entity still has the choice of staying or leaving.
So
that is where the solidifications of the combined telepathic structuring of your society begin to take a very rigidized and solid hold, and the individual at that point may not believe they have the ability to leave.
So the child, the pregnancy that the child had made an agreement with the parents to be born,
yes,
and then changed his mind 3 or 4 months into the...
It is not so much that it changed. Let us say the potential for it to leave at that time always existed strongly. In many cases, it can be looked at as a change of mind, so to speak, which can be done. Also, the idea can be that it is a change of mind if the individual stays alive. Follow me? Thank you. At this timing, allow us to remind you once again, with regard to all of the lives you have lived within the cycle of incarnation on your planet, in a sense, this is the one you have been waiting for. This one is the transformational life that allows you to use the experience you have gained in all the other lives. Now is why you are integrating. Now is why you are exploring this idea. Trust, therefore, that this life is the life you have been waiting for, is the life in which you can remember your deservability, in which you can recall your ecstasy, in which you can create your physiological reality to be a synchronous, harmonious event. This is the one. Here it is. All the waiting, all the practicing is over. Go and live it. Trust it. Do it. Be it. You will be supported. We can guarantee it. 100%. This is it. The transformational age. The beginning of a completely new perspective of yourself. So, feel free and do not fear. Because you will not have to go and live your life so that you can win. You can go and live your lives because you cannot lose. Our unconditional love to you all, exciting dream life and life dreams. We are the sharing that continues forever. We will see you in your dreams, which is becoming your physical world. We thank you for your sharing, fond, and unconditionally loving. Full moon, good evening.
Thank you.
Everything go?
Wonderful. Happy anniversary, Daryl.
Thanks for being here tonight, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Daryl.
So Danielle's birthday.
Oh, yes. It's Daniel's birthday. Stand up, Daniel. It's his birthday today, too. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Daniel. Happy birthday to you.
Birthday, yes.
No, the channeling.
Happy birthday.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Okay. What's the time?
It's 10:45, 49. Thank you all for coming. Anyone who would like a tape of tonight, we can have it ready for you tonight. We've got a high-speed tape duplicator.
Can we just sit here for about a half hour?
You can just sit here as long as you want.
Your phone operating and
Thank you all. Thank you all.